Back live at Golden Ticket Sports Center, Hour 2 of the RP Show is brought to you by CoolBet Canada. Always the best odds at CoolBet. Use promo code RP200 to claim your welcome double bet bonus up to $200 at CoolBet.com. We have the all-star Rich Sutter with us, joining us from Lethbridge. Rich, I'm glad to see you made it home from Vancouver safely. How was your travels from the wet coast?
It was a late night, but got home safely here about 2:30 this morning, so all's good.
Nothing for a warrior like you, Richie, to do. Thanks for the time, and I'm glad you made it home safely. Speaking of betting, the odds makers have the Oilers favored to win this series in 7 at home. How are you feeling about the Stanley Cup final?
Well, it's going to be, I'll be floored if it's not a long series. I think it's going to be a terrific series. Both teams are rested. The complaining about injuries hopefully are over with. And the health of the groups of both squads, they've had time to recuperate a little bit, so hopefully they'll be ready to go. I think it's going to be a heck of a series just because based on, both teams faced each other this time a year ago. They both now know what to expect from one another. Look, both sides have probably got injuries. They're not talking about it. I'd like to think outside of Zach Hyman that Edmonton's probably a healthier club. Florida certainly doesn't let the world know about their injuries, or they don't complain about it, which has been great. There's guys hurt there. And outside of Hyman, like I said, I think Edmonton looks and seems to be relatively healthy. First time they haven't complained or talked about injuries all year, quite frankly. So it should be a hell of a series.
Rich is great with answering audience questions, too. So if anybody has them fired, the Mattis 902-518-3033 for Progressive Insurance. Rich, I do like to go through the check marks, and in a second I will. I had fun doing this with Kevin Carius yesterday, but what are your thoughts on this? Paul Maurice in his news conference yesterday, last one before leaving Florida, said each team feels they're better than last year at this time. The Oilers addressed their D. The Panthers feel they addressed a little more offense. They both think they're better. I guess we'll find out in the next couple of weeks, huh? Who got better?
I agree with that. I think that I honestly believe that if you're an Oiler fan, and I would say to some degree within the organization too, that how can you not admit that there's got to be look, you got a goalie that is playing well or has played well coming into the final. That being said, the inconsistency is still in that game in Stuart Skinner. And at times it's been with Bob as well. But he seemed to have gotten over that hump and proven his point, and probably erased some of the naysayers. You have to believe that it still has to be out there with Stuart Skinner. I think without a doubt, even though he's been quite good here the last series. But I think that's going to weigh heavily into someone's minds and on both sides about how do we get this guy, if we can get this guy, because you never know how fast it can go off the rails. Because until you've proven that you can win and are a winner, that'll always be there from their side.
Sure.
Having Ekholm back is huge. Bouchard's been great, but personally, I'd like to see some people be a little bit harder on Bouchard because he gets let off the hook a lot in terms of allowing him to play his game. And he's a major force in that back end. Whereas the Panthers back end kind of have to do it by a little bit more by committee from an offensive side, where with Edmonton, Bouchard's the go-to guy on the back end.
I saw a stat, somebody told me before I left Florida that the Panthers only had one defenseman with a power play goal all year. And I thought, and it was Gustav Forsling near the end of the year. That is an insane stat, but it's kind of what you're saying. They don't have the guy, But, okay, here's the one thing. Talking about the road to get here. The Leafs series, The Panthers went down 0-2, Rich, as you know, and somebody asked me about that recently, and I said they never panicked, and I think they waited for the Leafs to implode, which they eventually did. You talk about a team never proving anything until they win. That's the Leafs in a nutshell. But the Oilers won't implode. I don't think they'll implode. Do you?
No, I think that um, look, they're two really good hockey teams, both with depth. Um, it could be a bad bounce here, a bad bounce there. I mean, or a goal that you don't see coming that comes out of nowhere, off a play off the corner, off the goal line, whatever. But um, there can be momentum swings in games in a heck of a hurry. Yes, you can say there's momentum swings. You go from game to game, and one team can carry or not carry the momentum. I think it's just how you handle whatever happened right in front of you. It's how you handle that next shift, how you handle the a big penalty kill or a great opportunity to score on a 4 minute power play or something. And it's how our teams. It's the reaction of the action that takes place before, and whatever teams can handle it the best and play with a sense of calmness, but confidence in their game, which they both seem to be talking about right now because they've been there. So there's a better sense of calmness. Um, I just think it's two really good teams going at it, and it's going to be fun from a viewer standpoint.
No doubt about it. And Chad writes in, he says, if Skinner gets shelled in game one, how short of a leash is there? How would you answer that?
Well, Pickard was awfully damn good before he got hurt. That's one way to answer it. I mean, you can't say that you can't question or would question putting in Pickard if there was a problem with Stuart Skinner's goaltending. Um, because I think he proved his point that he was more than capable of giving his team a chance. And this time of the year, your goalie has to give your team a chance, and your goalie has to make some saves that you're not expecting, or you think that was a sure goal, or that was the turning point in the game, or let's not forget about that save because that could have been something that changed the game on a dime or even the series.
And to answer that, the Oilers should not be worried at all about goaltending. As for Rich just said, they've put both goalies have won games. As a matter of fact, they're the first pair of goalies to win 6 games or more since Philadelphia Flyers well over a decade ago. Ryan in upstate New York says, a good day, Rod Squad, and good day to Rich. That's from Ryan in New York, just passing along a hello. I guess if we go through a check box of the series, which I like to do, checklist, goaltending we're giving to Florida, right?
I would say at this point, the edge has to go to them.
Defense,
Very even, quite frankly.
yes.
Having that come back is a plus for Edmonton, but it also takes away other minutes that other players are playing, and there's an adjustment because guys are slotted a little bit differently. Um, Sometimes that can be a really advantage for your group, but sometimes that can be a disadvantage because uh, guys aren't getting the minutes or the spots that they were normally put in. Um, and it's how you respond to those things. And so I would say that it's pretty even.
Yeah, it's if any of these categories was a wash, that's the one. I might give a slight edge to Florida because they know their D could be better. I think they'd like a little more out of Seth Jones, to be honest with you. I think they feel Nate Schmidt has a little more to give. Forwards, based on 2 guys, Edmonton's got to get the check mark there, no?
Oh, I think it's obvious. Um,
Yeah.
and they're both probably a little bit more rested with the time that's happened between the conference finals of both sides. Um, I mean, look, they're world class players, right? And it's not saying that the Panthers don't have some of those guys either, just that they're not up here. Um, Florida relies on a hell of a team game. Edmonton is getting better at relying on a team game. Obviously, they are where they are today because of that. Uh, some better depth, and they are getting some other contributions. It comes down to, like I said, it comes down to whoever can get on a roll, get some rhythm, get some breaks, and make and who's going to make some saves.
Yeah. Coaching, by the way, I wonder because you've been through the wars this time of year. How important is coaching, and who gets the check mark in this series between Paul Maurice and Chris Knobloch?
Well, I think it's honestly, Rod. I think it's a little bit different because one coach, when the team goes down or falls behind, and there's some sense of desperation about we got to get something back or we need to get some goals. It's rather obvious that one team always does, and that puts 97 and 29 together in a hurry, and they're double shifting. Uh, there's a difference. So that's an easy decision for a coach to make. I mean, anyone can do that standing behind the bench, right? You just throw these two guys out together. Who's ever rolling jumps in with them, right? Whatever a winger gets or whatever two wingers gets in with them. For Florida, they rely much more on a team game. Uh, Obviously, their power play, I think, has to be huge. Their penalty killing does too, for that matter. But just because of the 29-97, your penalty killing has to be bang on, because they can hurt you in a hurry in the power play. So I just think depth wise, look, Edmonton's got the depth more than they had a year ago, but depth wise, Florida's gonna have to really rely on it, and get some big goals from some guys.
Yeah, on the radio in Edmonton this morning, they asked who they were going to match up against McDavid and Draisaitl, Jones, or Ekblad. I said, "How can you plan when they're not together all the time? The series will
And then
dictate that."
you don't get last change anyway. So prior to the question, I didn't really answer the coaching question, but like I said, it's obvious that one team's got an easy decision to make all the time if they fall behind or when they fall behind, right? The other coach, he has the confidence and the ability in his group that he can roll four lines, but obviously, you know, in the National Hockey League, coaches don't always coach games. They manage games. They manage the field. They manage the flow. They manage what's going on at that time of the game, what players or what line is really rolling, and you feel that. And so sometimes those guys get the extra shift or two, or the extra couple of minutes over the course of the game, in any offensive or defensive situation. So that's why I think that it's easier for Chris to just throw two guys out because he knows he's got them on the bench, where Paul's got to use a little more savviness and roll with the group and obviously trust.
The last two series, I've been sitting with this guy, Brent from Wellington, Florida. He's my buddy. And we've looked at each other and said, can't believe how much Maurice is playing the fourth line. He's playing the hell out of him, which tells you the trust that he has in those guys. And Brent wants to know, does it matter to you, Rich, if an American team or Canadian team wins the cup?
Well, I think you ask a lot of Canadians up here, it'll matter to them. But there's also a lot of Canadians up here that are Panther fans, and there's a lot of Canadians on the Panthers hockey club. So, look, I think it's two great teams going at it. I'm not really going to disclose who my team is. I believe that, like I said, it's going to be a hell of a series, and I do have partialness to the guys in Florida. I mean, great coaching staff. Bill Zito's, to me, is just not a wonderful GM or a great GM. He's a heck of a person and a great family, and I know the family well. So my ties probably string a little bit tighter to them than it does to the other team here in Alberta, and that's fine. Someone in my house might disagree with that, but
that's what makes it fun.
And it's all, that's what makes it fun this time of the year. It's not a one game steal or take all like a Memorial Cup or a Super Bowl, or a Grey Cup. This is a series, and it'll be fun to watch.
BW in Edmonton wants to know who has the better bottom six forwards in your mind.
Well, I think the bottom six forwards they've all contributed. That's been the biggest thing, is that's been the recipe to success for Florida getting back to three finals and for winning the second one and giving themselves a great chance to win the third. It's given Edmonton a chance to get themselves back again with a shot to win again. I think it's a dead heat. I know if I was a third or fourth line guy, I've got my 6 or 7 guys in my corner as fours, and I'd be telling my group of guys, look dead straight across at the other 6 or 7 guys. For the next 10 days, we need to outplay them, and we need to be on the same page, and we need to figure this out, and we can't wait to see what the other bottom 6 guys on that side is going to do. We have to try to get going and get out in front of them. Be difference makers for your group, because this time of the year, star players need to make star plays. But at the end of the day, your bottom guys have to be very, very important players.
Yep. And look who's in key games scoring for the Panthers were A.J. Greer, Jonah Gradrovich. What? Niko Mikkola had 2 goals in a game. My God, he's looking like Paul Coffey. Here's a fun one. Greg in Calgary says, Rich, why do you dislike the Oilers? Is he correct in that?
I'm not saying I dislike the Oilers. I think you just read it wrong, Greg, quite frankly. Just because I'm in Alberta doesn't mean you have to, you know. Hey, I worked over my 42-year career in the NHL or whatever it was to this point. I worked for one NHL team for 4 years, so it's not like I should have an allegiance to a team from Alberta or a team in Canada. I'm also a fan of the game too, right? And I love watching hockey. I know the game, and I know a lot of people in the game. So that's there's no.
He's seeing ghosts, Rich. That's what we say in football. He's seeing ghosts. He's seeing something that's not there. But I got to say this. Chris Pronger was on NHL radio saying now that he's doing media, he goes, I can't believe, here's what's changed. The media are fans. He discovered that while working at Sportsnet, being in that same back room that you were in. How did that happen? Because it's happened. How did that happen?
Well, Chris is a smart guy too. Like he watches the game, and you know, I think when you've played the game, a lot of these guys get on these shows, and you know they tend to be armchair quarterbacks, armchair coaches, armchair all-star centermen. Some guys are on every night that never played the game. A lot of those guys wouldn't know the pulse of the locker room if they slept in it. Chris obviously does. Been there, done that, right? And so you have a better feel, you have a better read. You see things quite a bit differently than the average fan would see. You would follow certain things on the ice that is not necessarily where always the puck is at. So yeah, you have a little bit different take on the game and how it flows.
No doubt about it. I don't know how it happened, but it has happened. Anyways, we're inside a minute, like about 30 seconds left. So, Rich, I'm going to say thank you for coming on. This went by incredibly fast. I hope that you can join us again throughout this Stanley Cup final.
Yes, talk soon.
All right, Rich Sutter joining us from Lethbridge, Alberta, as we get ready for the Stanley Cup final. Game 1 goes Wednesday night, and the RP show will be there. Serena will be joining us tomorrow in hour 1 to preview Game 1 of her Oilers against the Florida Panthers. Speaking of fans, when we come back, we'll get into a sports update and viewer takeover the rest of the way. It is the RP show, and we're coming at you live on Game Plus Television and, of course, streaming and found on all major podcast platforms. Oh, we still got 15 seconds. Okay. Well, I'll just tell you that. Oh, there we go. There we go. 902-518-3033 for the text line, and we'll be right back with all of that after this.